leading to this webinar. And then from there, we will be having a question and answer portion. And all of the participants are invited to use the Q&A box, which is found here in your in your screen, in the lower part of your screen, where you can ask questions relevant to our topic, no? To the reports given by our panelists. And then after which we will be having a presentation from our friend who is the head of the UN panel from IPCA. I will introduce him to you later. And then after that, maybe we can have some stories, no? If we still have the time. And we will be hearing from our new president from IPCA. Okay, so as in every meeting that we have, no? Let us start it by invoking the mighty presence of our God. So may I invite everyone to put yourselves in the mighty presence of our God, and let us have our opening prayer. Father of justice and mercy, grant us your compassion, especially for those in prison. Mend in mercy the broken in mind and memory. Soften the heart, the captives of anger. Free the innocent, parole the deserving ones. Awaken the repentant that restores hope. May prisoners' families persevere in their love. Father, heal the victims of crime. They live with the scars, left to eternal peace, and live to eternal peace all those who have died. Grant victims' families the forgiveness that heals. Give wisdom to lawmakers and to those who judge. Instill prudence and patience in those who guard. Make us chaplains in prison ministry, bearers of your light, for all of us are all in need of your mercy. And we also lift up to you this meeting tonight, this webinar. We lift up to you our internet connections, that we may have a smooth and nice time with each other, so that we may bond together, all prison chaplains doing your mission here on earth. This we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay. Again, greetings from stormy Philippines. Tonight we are in the Philippines. We are having quite an inclement weather, but with God's grace, still the internet connection is good. So maybe let us now keep the ball rolling, and then we have a panel. We have a panel tonight, no? Who will be speaking
Las personas que van a hablar
and will be sharing their
van a
experiences.
compartir algo de sus
So
experiencias.
then I introduce them, and yeah, one by one, let us introduce them. From our new president of the Worldwide Steering Committee from Europe, Mr. David, Reverend David Buick is here now. Also, Tim Dixon of IPCA Europe. Say hi, Tim. And then Teresa Calendonk from North America. John Didier Mboyo, I'm sorry, from Africa. Maurice Muchanyeri from, I hope I pronounce it right, from Africa. Well, my other half from Asia, Reverend Dr. Sirirat Pusurinkam of Asia. Also Reverend Suzanne Rodmar from IPCA Europe. Joanne Clone from North America. Carlos Cunningham. Ainsley Davis. Manuel Cordero. And we have our interpreters, Naomi Buick and Elizabeth Lake. I hope they are all acknowledged tonight. So maybe let's go around the room to get some information from our panelists regarding the agenda. No? We have some questions that are prepared here for them to answer. No? They will share a little bit of what happened during their regional meeting. So maybe let's now hear from our representative from let's hear from our representative from Asia, from Sirirat. Maybe you can briefly introduce yourself first, your country, your region, and then faith affiliation, and the prison where you work, and then your IPCA responsibilities, and then maybe you can give some sharing with what happened during your regional meeting. So the first to speak will be Dr. Sirirat Busurinkam of Thailand. Yes, Sirirat, very briefly. Yes. You're muted, Sirirat. Kindly unmute, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, okay.
Okay, first, สวัสดีค่ะ Greeting from I am outgoing steering committee from Asia, and someone will replace me soon. And we supposed to be in Bangkok now if we don't have COVID-19, because we have long time plan to have IPCA Worldwide Conference in Bangkok, right? November, like this week. But however, we cannot make it. In the future, if no COVID, if you want to have a IPCA Worldwide Conference in Thailand, I'm very welcome. Okay, that's first thing. The second thing, on October 31st last month, our IPCA from Asia, we have a Zoom meeting, and we have many countries from Asia, Philippines, Thailand, Singapore, India, Hong Kong. We discuss about situation during COVID-19 affect prison chaplain in Asia, like Thailand.
19, et de plusieurs pays d'Asie, comme
And
Sí,
friends
estamos por ahí.
did not have chance to meet prisoner and prison chaplain.
Ha sido difícil encontrar las
For months,
familias
we
de
did not
los
have
prisioneros.
opportunity to go inside, but now they allow us to go, but very strict about how to prevent about COVID-19. However, many Asia have the same situation, that we try to make like DVD or manuscript for Bible lesson plan, or some of them learn by mail, like Lamb of Thailand. We try to find many ways to help the people in jail to learn Bible. We also have Asia. We set a messenger that I can talk to Jerry and everyone, remind each other, like today we have a webinar, and we have an internet connection. That's why we can reach to each other. And now we encourage more country to be member of IPCA, and we thank God for internet connection, that we can see each other, we can share our hope. And thank you for tonight. I have opportunity to meet all of you again, and thank you for Jerry to reach our group today. And Jerry will be the one who continue for Asia, and the new one to continue. And I will be support, and I will love to part of your ministry.
Yeah, Sirirat, maybe you can give some 1 or 2 points about the Asia meeting. What happened? What were the problems discussed? Yes, about COVID and the other.
Like friends India, they have many difficult time in India, because COVID-19 spread all over in India, and they have many things to share, and we need to pray for each other. And the COVID-19 still happen in some country like Asia, Indonesia, Philippines as well, and Thailand also have. But uh, that is why Asia. Last time we share about what happened in our prison ministry during COVID-19.
Okay. Thank
Yes.
you very much, Rat. No, if I may add, no, right now in most of the Asian prisons, there are not the volunteers and the chaplains are not allowed to enter. So there are no activities happening because they consider uh, the faith service is not so much an essential need of the prisoners. But we are taking our ministry to the next level. We are trying to deliver it through the internet. We conduct masses and seminars or other activities via Zoom and via social media. So in that way, we are trying our best to really reach to the prisoners, despite the COVID-19 situation. But may I share also with in our country, uh, because of the lack of prisoners, because of the lack of visitors to the prisoners, there are prevalent riots or gang wars between the inmates. Just yesterday, there was a big riot in our national prisons wherein 68 prisoners were hurt and 3 were killed. No? So I think it's really a big concern because of what is happening. The government is not allowing uh, the relatives to visit the prisoners as well as the chaplains to perform their services. It causes extreme boredom to the prisoners. So uh, as a result, there are a lot of fighting among them. So there are a lot of violence happening. So that is what is ailing our prison ministry in this part of the world in Asia. Okay, so let's now move on to another region who would like to share. Maybe let's hear from who would like to go next. Shall we hear a representative from Latin America? Uh, Carlos, maybe you would want to share what happened during your. Maybe you can introduce yourself first and then say what something that happened during your regional meeting.
Good morning, good afternoon, good night. Here in Costa Rica, it's good morning. My name is Rabbi Carlos Cunningham. I'm chaplain here in Costa Rica, and working more in the area of the capital of the country. And we have chaplains um, are preparing for this new season. And during this pandemic, it's been very interesting because, well, as everyone knows, this is something that no one was expecting, especially in the present context, and the way this affect the chaplaincy and the work inside the prison with the ministries. Um, force us to think on different ways to continue sharing the gospel, supporting the inmates. Our chaplains are focused and work with the inmates, especially, and we are been developing some projects with the families of the inmates and the victims and the former inmates. But when the prison was closed and we and then wasn't allowed to enter, like 2 or 3 weeks after that happened, the the warden of one of the prison call call us and say, no, we need some support because we're having difficulties with the guards. They are going through a lot of panic and stress, and where the chaplains can come and share with the guards, because in that week, in that first week, because of the situation, two of the guards commit suicide, Then we start, giving some talks with masks and all. But after this, the national director of the police department of correctional asked us if we could develop some kind of project on Zoom, or to reach out to the police in all the country. Then since that, we've been meeting every Tuesday with the police, and this just opened our eyes to consider seriously to develop the chaplaincy, not only with the inmates, but also to give the support to the guards and to the functionaries of the prisons. Then I would say that this is part of the result of this chaotic situation. And when we have our meeting, regional meeting last Saturday, it's a great time. We have a great time, um, to learn a lot and to hear the experiences, of different chaplains and different areas. And I really want to say thanks to IPCA, because of this symposium. It's another open eye, to say, well, it's important to work in the aspect of unite chaplains in our country and chaplains in our area. Then now we have some contact with the chaplains in Peru, Paraguay, Uruguay, in Panama, and El Salvador. Then I think what is coming after this would be very, very good for our ministry. Thank
Yeah,
you.
okay. So that's a nice way to bring back the fire of the ministry in Latin America. Thank you very much, Carlos. They're asking for your surname. So your surname is Cunningham, no? Is that right?
Cunningham, yes.
Yes. Thank you
Cunningham.
very much. Thank you, Carlos. Let's now go to North America, no? Can you hear from Manuel Cordero? Manuel?
Pleasure to be here. Glad to be connecting. Um, we did have a meeting of North America, and the U.S. and Canada. Our team was small. We have lost a lot of membership, but we will not despise small beginnings. We will rebuild IPCA. We are Joanne. I don't see her here yet, but and Teresa being our technical support, uh, we will work forward in IPCA. As far as the question, we we experienced the same thing. Some of our chaplains that were volunteers and contractors were not allowed to come back into the prisons. Those who were government employees, they were. Some prisons had a significant number of inmates who have uh, contracted COVID, but they the chaplains were managed to visit, to minister, to be there. Unfortunately, some of our own chaplains were contracted the disease, but once they recovered, they were back doing the service. So yes, there were some limitation, but there were, like Carlos just mentioned, there were also opportunities that were not there before.
mhm.
Or there was a recognition of the value of chaplaincy and faith in fighting
Mhm,
the
mhm.
disease. So
Yeah.
hope was kept alive, as the theme of our conference is. Chaplains were able to bring hope and to be able to provide that hope to those, both the staff and the inmates, and in many cases also the families. Some of the we had in one occasion where a group of mothers had made a big demonstration, but chaplains were sent to speak with them, and that situation was alleviated. I think that's what we can say from the North American region right now. Teresa, certainly to echo what we have. Thank you.
Yeah, certainly, COVID is really a big problem all over the world, no? So, but I understand, or I believe that there are a lot of other problems that we're facing in the chaplaincy. So, thank you very much, Manuel. Maybe let's go to Africa this time. Let's hear from a representative from Africa. Who will be doing it for Africa? I think it's Morris, or yes, is Morris available?
Yes, I'm
Yes,
available.
Morris.
Thank
Yes.
you very much. My chair here is here, Jean.
Yes,
It-
Morris, tell them your surname first, because they
My
only see
name,
Morris. Yes.
yes, my name is Maurice Muchanyere. I'm deputy representative for Africa, and I'm in Zimbabwe, Harare. I'm delighted to be here today. On behalf of my chair, Jean, we had a very successful online Zooming as Africa, meeting with some representatives from Zambia, Kenya, Congo, Zimbabwe. The Ministry of Chaplains during this COVID pandemic really changed the approach of ministry here in Africa. There's been a closure where outsiders were not permitted and are still not very much permitted in most of the places in our different countries here. But the chaplains are ever with liberty to carry on with their task of ministering or providing ministry to inmates through teaching, through preaching, but in smaller groups. So chaplains now are ministering to smaller groups at different intervals of time and maintaining the social distance, wearing of their masks, sanitizing as per the health expert requirement. Churches continuously give support through donations, supporting in the provision of some basics such as food, but these are just being delivered inside the prison without allowing most of these members from the churches to get into the prisons. But we continue to reach out to churches and church organizations to give support in the area of the humanitarian or the needs, the basic needs that our inmates would require. The prisons here in Africa, their operation has been limited due to this pandemic, and we hope that immediately, if the situation is going to improve, then the space for ministry will also be opened for the outsiders to come in and continuously provide the ministry as before, or possibly in a very transformed way related to the new situation in which we are. But we are happy that the government is giving us a lot of support. The government is supporting the churches, is allowing churches to do what they can within the specified operational ways. We are also happy that our Zooming went on well, and our chair here, Jean Didier, was the steering person who coordinated and registered the Zooming and managed really to bring everyone on board. We are also very much humbled that our president, David, was in attendance on our Zooming, which really we saw this as a reincarnation of IPCA. We saw this as a rebirth of IPCA, where IPCA is touching lives even here in Africa. I think these are the issues that I should share with you. In terms of challenges, here in Africa, there's a great challenge in developing chaplains. There's a challenge in developing, we have got quest or need to really get some assistance or programs that can help us to develop chaplains as a specialist section, or chaplains as a specialist area. So area of developing chaplains here in Africa is of great significance and need, and I would call to the IPCA. Then secondly, if we are going to be over this COVID, we would also want the broader presence of IPCA in Africa, so as to try to augment the great work that the chaplains in Africa are doing, either through visits, either through a program that will be done here in Africa. We would appreciate such kind of programming. I think these are the few issues that I can share. If my boss here, Jean, has something to add, I would open the space. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Morris. No, I think you have discussed a lot of issues that are very, very pressing in your part of this the world, no, the Africa region. So right now we will now go to the Europe, to IPCA Europe, no. Who will be reporting for IPCA Europe? Is it Suzanne or Tim?
I will start and then I will hand over to Tim.
Okay, Suzanne, yeah. Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you. I'm Suzanne. I'm a reverend in the Uniting Church in Sweden, and I'm a prison chaplain general in Sweden. There are 3 of us, 2 Christian and 1 Muslim prison chaplain general, and we are together coordinating all the prison chaplains in Sweden. And I've been part of the IPCA Worldwide Steering Committee since Sydney. I will soon leave and make place for another European representative, but a little longer I'm one of the European representatives. Last week we had a regional meeting in Europe with a little more than 20 participants from, I think, maybe 7 or 8 countries, and sharing experience from the pandemic situation in our prisons. And now I will gladly hand over to Tim to tell us a little more from the regional meeting.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. So yes, just to say again, I'm Tim Dixon. I'm a full-time Christian chaplain at HMP Durham, which is a large remand prison in the northeast of England. And it's great to be here today. So we had a great time, as Suzanne said, speaking about the different challenges that have faced us as prison chaplains during COVID in Europe. And it seems as if there are as many different ways of dealing with COVID in prisons as there are countries, and almost as if there are prisons. Certainly from the experiences shared with us, we heard from Norwegian prison chaplains saying how hard it had been in high security prisons. Every prison pretty much there had been part closed. Many prisoners have been sent away in the lower security prisons, but in the high security ones it was very hard to get in touch with anyone. Some prisoners were only able to be accessed via phone call, which meant that was much less depth of conversation and less opportunity to meet people face to face in the way that we all love doing. It does seem in some countries as if this has been an opportunity for some governments to crack down on prison chaplaincy and to stop prison chaplains coming in full stop. And that's been very difficult for some. Certainly in my case in the UK, I talked about certainly we've had a number of fatalities amongst our prisoners and our staff due to COVID, and prisoners in many places have been behind their door for 23 hours a day in a way that's been similar across the world. Some chaplains spoke quite positively in Europe about how COVID had actually made them think differently about what their ministry is about and how they did their prison chaplaincy and what it was about. And actually, despite the challenges, that it had been a catalyst for new thinking and new ways of doing things, and thinking laterally perhaps about how we continue our ministry in challenging times. Similarly, we heard from Germany, there's been a lot of prisoners in quarantine, a lot of difficulty getting into prisons. In Turkey, we heard that almost all prison chaplains have been stopped from going into prisons. They've just been able to write letters and send books at request, but it's been a real challenge for a lot of our chaplains, and a lot of them have struggled personally through this time. But it's also been great. We shared a lot about how important it was to keep each other going and how to share good stories of hope amongst each other, and how that would help us get through times like this. So it was a very similar picture to many places around the world. But I think the main thing we took away from our Zoom meeting was how important it is to support each other, to listen to each other's stories, to rely on each other. And also somebody mentioned about sharing more resources amongst each other. Often we have excellent chaplaincy resources in our own teams and within our own countries, but we don't often share them. So I think better communication and better support is something that came out of our meeting, which we're keen to carry on, certainly in a European setting as well. Thank you, Jerry.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tim. No, yeah. Really, our efforts that we're doing during this time of pandemic really contributes to keeping hope alive, in our ministry in all over the world. So it's nice to hear your stories and your efforts to really give hope where it is needed. So right now we will go to Oceania, but I think it's very, very late in the night there. So we would not expect anyone to really speak from their region. So I think we will now introduce our new president, who has been going around to all the regional meetings, and I think he will be able to share something that happened during the Oceania meeting. So please meet our new IPCA president, David Buick.
Yeah, hi, thanks very much, Joey. Hello, everyone. Hi to everyone that I recognize from the chats. I'm sorry we can't sit around and chat more freely. I'll be brief, just to say that I'm a pastor of an independent evangelical church in France. I've been a prison chaplain since 2003. I'm responsible for some 20 prisons in my region since 2011, and I've been the president of IPCA since June of this year. I'm really happy to have this team of people around me. Some of our steering committee members are not able to be here right now. And yeah, it's been a very difficult time of day for people in Oceania. In New South Wales, it is midnight right now. But I would like to give a shout out to Dave Marshall. He is in New Zealand, where it is 2 o'clock in the morning, and he is in this seminar. So Dave, thanks so much for joining us. And we look forward to being in touch with you again soon. So as Jerry said, I was able to attend all the regional seminars, so it's been great to travel by Zoom around the world and hear about the issues facing chaplains at this particular time and more generally. I would just like to say 3 comebacks from Australia, which weren't to do with COVID. The situation is different in different Australian states about prisons and COVID, but 3 things that weren't COVID, we also face other challenges as prison chaplains. One was the challenge of radicalization, which is, yeah, Mary, that's true. There are people here from Australia in the attendance. So thanks so much for staying up to be with us. So there's just no IPCA representatives right here. So yeah, the one challenge is radicalization, which has been a key challenge in many areas of the world and something not to be forgotten as we deal with the current health crisis. Another challenge is dealing particularly in Australia, but I think is true in other countries, is dealing with exceptionally high recidivism rates amongst indigenous peoples, or reincarceration rates. And one of the participants was looking to see if there were any way of finding resources to help approach this problem backed by research from other parts of the world. And that's certainly something that IPCA would aspire to help with, connecting research findings that can help change the approach to criminal justice in different parts of the world and change it in a good way. And a third thing that came out of the meeting was the concern with in some privatized prisons that while there was a goal for prisoners to be occupied in the purposeful day, being occupied with work and education. That left less space for chaplains to intervene on matters of spiritual care. So again, another concern reflected from a part of the world. I think I'll keep it there, and I can see that our time is going really fast here. It's very frustrating not to have a whole 4 days of conference in Bangkok. Sirat, maybe will come another time, but we can't do that right now. But we'd like to give some time for questions and answers. And just before we go there, I'd like to pick up on one question and maybe hand over to Jean Didier Mboyo. We had a question in the chaplain about the access of prisoners worldwide to spiritual care. And that is something which is of concern to IPCA. It's something that we obviously want to promote. And we felt that it was particularly important to look at the impact of the pandemic on prisoners' rights to spiritual care, and to talk about how IPCA is expressing its concern about that, and hopefully helping people in individual countries to raise that concern with their prison authorities. I'd like to hand over to Jean Didier. Jean Didier heads up IPCA's UN team. I'll leave him to introduce himself, but just say that to my mind, IPCA worldwide, as opposed to the IPCA regions, has the main reason that we exist is to support the work of our UN team, which is bringing together chaplains across the world into an organization which can have a real impact in developing policies worldwide. So Jean Didier, over to you to talk about the UN team and our declaration.
Hi again. I'm Jean Didier Mboyo. I'm a prison chaplain, a regional prison chaplain of Protestant Church from my region or province, which is Katanga in Democratic Republic of Congo. I'm one of the church leaders as well, and personally I'm ministering in Kasapa prison, which is based in Lubumbashi. I'm IPCA representative for Africa, as well, and the chair of the UN team, UN, which means the United Nations team. Mainly with the United Nations team, we are based in human rights and restorative justice, and we are trying to raise our voice to the nations, making the nations heard what chaplains are saying. This is what we are doing, and taking something which is good from the nations to promote it. This is what
et c'est ce que l'équipe des Nations
team
haciendo todos IPCA.
And there is 2 in Europe, Vienna and Geneva. In New York, we do have a local representative who is Reverend Hans Salenenbach. In Vienna, we do have a local representative in the person of Reverend Martin Faber. And in Geneva, we do have a local representative in the person of Reverend Dr. Frank Stufen. These are our 3 main offices, and as a UN team, we are trying to make declarations. We do make a lot of declarations in the time before, and according to our last meetings as a UN team, we adopted at our small team a declaration which we want to ask you as a big IPCA, as a worldwide IPCA, to adopt, to endorse, so we can introduce it at UN, which will be our declaration according to the COVID situation which our world is facing. Let me read it for you, and if you have some time, you can ask some questions. Lockdown for the travel. The coronavirus pandemic poses a challenge to the world. When vulnerable groups are mentioned, prisoners are rarely included. prisons can easily become hotspots of COVID-19 in too many prisons around the world. COVID-19 is killing people either directly or indirectly. Under the Nelson Mandela rules, prisoners have the same rights to health as everyone else. The global prison population is estimated in 11 million. Too many prisons in too many countries are unsanitary and overcrowded. Inmates do not always have access to clean water. Prison itself is hardly a healthy environment. Food is typically of poor quality, and in many places, even poor quality food is rare. In many countries, inmates rely on family and friends to bring food and supplies, especially in pretrial situations. With the lockdown, this possibility disappears. IPCA acknowledged that prison administrations in many countries are doing their best to use lockdown measures to keep the pandemic out of their prisons by minimizing contact with virtually everything outside the walls. As a result, many prisons have been protected from COVID-19 outbreaks. IPCA supports efforts to protect the lives of the prison community, inmates and staff worldwide, but regrets restrictions beyond those strictly necessary that limit access to jobs and counseling for inmates. IPCA also wishes to highlight the consequences of such restrictions. Friends and family cannot help due to the situation outside the walls and the restriction on contact. Restriction on visits from family members and friends, no access to prison chaplains, volunteers, rehabilitation programs, and many other counseling services, and no religious or spiritual services. All of this leads to only to economic hardship for prisoners, but also to mental and spiritual hardship. In some parts of the world, the coronavirus is killing people in prison, and we should do everything we can to protect them. But in the long run, lack of contact, visits, and religious, spiritual, and other care can also kill. IPCA also expresses concern that many restrictions needed for health reasons may persist even as and when they are no longer appropriate. IPCA welcomes the fact that Michelle Bachelet, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, has encouraged governments to release inmates who are particularly vulnerable to COVID-19. Such as the elderly and low-risk offenders. Detention should be a last resort, especially during this crisis, she said in a March 25, 2020 statement. Experts believe that there is enough leeway for prisoners to be released. In at least 46 countries around the world, the majority of prisoners have not been convicted of a crime. Pretrial detention rates are high. For example, in third of Brazil's sizable prison population are inmates on remand. Source, The Lancet, May 2nd, 2020. IPCA issues a call to prison authority worldwide to act immediately. Whenever there is an opportunity to reopen access to those who provide support in the form of religious and spiritual counseling and similar activities. Just do it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you
If
very
you do
much.
have concerning this declaration, we are open. The team is there. Some member of the team are there, so we can answer questions.
Okay, thank you very much, John Didier. You know, so that was a very, very well-crafted statement. And I think it reflects the sentiments, most of the sentiments expressed by our regions during their regional meetings. And it really raises concern about what is happening right now, especially in the light that almost all of the jails are on lockdown and no services are being given to the prisoners. So I think this declaration is really, really very timely. So David, so you have anything to add to the declaration, or anyone in the panel?
Yeah, I would just say I think it's been a great job. I think it's been a good example of how a concern that was raised locally in one IPCA region emerged and was recognised by other regions as corresponding to their concerns. Our UN team did some work on it just to refine it. And it's really good to be able to come away from our meeting today with a statement which corresponds to what we are about. And just while I've got the floor, just greetings to Joanne Clone, who's joining us. He's one of our other North America representatives. Hi, Joanne. Great you could manage to get on board with us. Great to see you. Yeah, I think I'll hand back to you, Joe, just to handle a time of Q&A as I see the time moving on now. If everyone's, well, I think what we'll do for the declaration is to say that we are going to adopt that. We've done a lot of work on it. We've had opportunities for comment in the regions, and it would be great to be able to go away from today with that so that we can get it ready for publication by the UN.
Okay, yeah. So do I see a thumbs up from everyone? It's a sign of approval for the declaration. So I think it's carried. So thank you very much, John Didier, for that for delivering that declaration. So thank you very much also to everyone. No? So shouting out also to all the other Asian representatives who are participating in this meeting. So let's now go to our question and answer portion. So Tim, have you already selected some relevant questions that we might show to the panel?
Yes, thank you. So we're now going to have our Q&A time, and some questions have been coming in through the Q&A, which is great. And if you could send the questions through to us so we can pick some, that would be super. I'm going to be able to unmute people so they can ask their question themselves. We had a question from Dr. Roderick Vassi about interfaith working in prisons during time of COVID. So Roderick, I'm going to unmute you. If you could ask your question, and then Jerry will pick a member of the panel to answer the question. So Roderick, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Tim, and welcome. Thank you very much for having me here. I was just wondering, as a Muslim chaplain at a high security prison in the UK, we are very fortunate in our sort of multi-faith team to get on quite well. But obviously now with some colleagues going off sick due to COVID or for other reasons, it's become more important to work in an interfaith way with prisoners of all different denominations and religions. So is that experience common?
Okay, so would like to answer since it's from Europe, maybe one from Europe. Oh, yeah, David.
I'll maybe pick up on that, just that one. Thanks, Jerry. Thanks, Roderick, so much for joining us and for your question. Just to give a bit of background in terms of what IPCA does. As you know, IPCA is an ecumenical organization, a Christian organization, which exercises hospitality to those of other faiths. So we're great that you are here, and I know there are people from other faiths and no faith attending also, and you've represented them in some way, so thanks very much for that. To your question, I think that prison is often an area in which there is more interfaith cooperation than outside the walls, because we share the same space and we often share the same challenges. And I think, yes, in many regions that I've been in touch with, there has been a move to approach prison authorities with similar concerns of access to spiritual care, whatever the faith affiliation and the religion. And also in some cases just to exchange news, best practices, how we deal with distancing measures and so forth with our inmates. And also in some cases to build ties where there are good neighbourly relations between the faiths outside the prison walls. So I think, yes, it's one example of how the pandemic, although it is a terrible thing, can present some opportunities for us as well. So great question. And I hope that there are some other good answers from other people, even if we don't have time to hear them right now.
Okay, anyone would like to add an answer to that? Or if none, let's now go to the next question, Tim. Thank you very much for that, Roderick, for that question. So Tim, any more questions there?
Yes, thank you, Roderick. Great question. We had our next question from Eileen, and it was about how the UN declaration that we've just decided on gets from kind of the top down, as it were. I'm just going to unmute you, Eileen, in 2 seconds so you can ask your question.
Okay, Eileen. Is Eileen there?
Eileen, if you unmute yourself, there we go.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, everyone, for this symposium. I was just wondering how the declaration will go from being a UN document to get to local, administrations of prisons in the various countries, regions, states, so that local groups can respond to what is in the declaration.
Okay, who would like to answer that question from the panel?
I can answer.
Okay, John Didier?
Yes,
okay, John
the
Didier.
declaration made by UN team, and each chaplains from his country, his prisons, is the porter of the declaration. So you are the one who can take the declaration to your prisons. You are the one who can take it to your government. And the UN team is the top on it. We are going to take it to UN offices at the headquarters. They will adopt it and publish it. That will be a UN document, which will be published, and everyone can have it when searching on the UN website. This is the answer.
Okay, thank you, John Didier. Was that question answered, Eileen? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, too. So right now, I think we're hitting 1 hour already, but maybe there will still be some questions, no?
Yes, I think there's probably time for 2 more questions.
Yes, okay.
The next question we had was from Father Konstantin Pantali from Ukraine. And this was a question about whether we think that COVID has increased kind of conflict and suicide amongst prisoners in prison. So Father Konstantin, I'll just unmute you in a second so you can ask your question more fully.
Father Konstantin?
Okay, Father Konstantin, if you unmute yourself now, you can ask your question.
Is Father Konstantin there?
Unmute. Hello, everybody.
Okay.
In Ukraine, when the COVID lockdown started, we heard a lot about how psychologists and social workers of prisons gathered to speak about problem of suicide and also conflicts between prisoners themselves and between prisoners and personnel. Because as we know, everybody of us as chaplains know that chaplain is a mediator when conflict starts, and of course the best counselor when somebody is on the on the edge of suicide. So we how it is in countries.
Donc, comment cela se passe?
Please.
Who among the panel would like to comment on that question, to answer the question?
Answer from a Canadian perspective. In Canada, Father Constantine, the chaplains and the psychologists and parole officers, they work really closely together in our federal prisons. I'm not, Joanne could speak into what happens in our provincial prisons, but we work closely together so that if I've intervened in a lot of these situations with suicide of inmates or suicidal ideation, you bring that to you bring that to the leadership. So you would bring that to the deputy warden or the correctional managers, and you bring that to the psychology department, and everybody meets together with that inmate, or sometimes it's the chaplain if it's at nighttime. But there's always an intervention. So we tend not to work alone, but we work with a multidisciplinary team. And then that inmate is seen by a forensic psychiatrist. They're on contract typically, and then they're sent to another prison in Saskatchewan in Canada. That inmate would be brought there for psychiatric support. And then they come back to their home prison, wherever that is. So there's a lot of intervention that takes place from a multidisciplinary team. And the chaplains are always invited in.
Yeah. Thank you, Teresa, for that, for clarifying that. No? So, Father Constantine, was it elaborately answered? I think so. Okay, thank you very much. So, Tim?
Okay, and we just had one last question, which was when is the next IPCA meeting going to be, the next general meeting where we hopefully will meet in person rather than on Zoom?
Yeah, okay. So I think the best person to answer it will be David.
that means you think I know the answer. I think the answer is we don't know. I think we're all praying for this pandemic to be resolved and we'll be able to get together again. I think the answer is as soon as possible. It's quite complicated because we have to organize a rhythm which doesn't interfere with other regions that have regional conferences. But we will certainly aim to have a face-to-face conference as soon as we feel it's reasonable and safe to do so. We need to do that in order to confirm the appointments of new steering committee representatives. In the meantime, before we're in a position to do that with the Worldwide Steering Committee, what I'm looking at doing is using this time when we're all a bit restricted and locked down to revise, overhaul our constitution, all the institutional and organizational things which we need to do to get IPCA working in a post-COVID world. We'll also be working hard on expanding and improving our social media presence and using that to help build up a global community of chaplains so that we can all be encouraged and also so that we can all benefit from the resources. All of us have really interesting stories. One of the things I love in IPCA is about being surprised and challenged by what chaplains are doing in other parts of the world and how that can change our own practices and broaden our horizons. Chaplains are often isolated and we need to open up for our horizons and support each other. And of course, a conference is the best place to do that. So I don't have a straight answer, but what I would encourage you to do is follow us all on our various media. I think Tim can post the links. You probably know them if you're here. So that's our Facebook page. A shout out to those who are following this webinar on Facebook right now. That's great to have you with us as well. Then there's also the website and Twitter as well, and we'll be providing details of our upcoming conference on on those media as soon as we know what's going on. So thanks very much.
Okay, thank you, David. I can see there are a lot of questions still being typed, but I don't think we have the time to answer all of them.
Yeah,
But
Suzanne
rest assured,
Suzanne just wants to say something there quickly. Sorry.
Yeah, Suzanne, please.
Just a short one. We were inspired at our regional meeting in Europe to have more of those Zoom meetings. So we thought of maybe every second month or something like that, we can have a regional meeting to get together, and maybe that could be something for other regions too, to keep in touch until we are able to meet face to face.
I think that's a good suggestion, no, David. So I think we can resolve that from now on. We will be communicating more often through our social media channels. No, we also have our worldwide web, no, the IPCAworldwide.org. No, we can communicate with each other using it also through Facebook and Twitter. So maybe Tim will be typing the exact addresses, so that we may be guided. So yeah. So there are a lot of questions, but rest assured that we're recording them all, and maybe we can answer them in our future sessions. No, maybe we can have regional meetings more often, no, as suggested earlier. So before we thank everyone, thank you very much for your time. Maybe David, will you be giving a final word before we go?
Yeah, I think that most of I think we've said what we need to say for now. I'm conscious of time going by. I think it would be really great if we could conclude in the traditional way that we do in IPCA, which is the short time of devotion.
Yes.
And yeah, so I would like to ask Teresa Calendonk to do that, just to by way of explanation. Teresa has been vice president for some time. She is outgoing because she has finished her mandate and is retiring from, or has retired from, prison chaplaincy.
Okay.
But I thought it was very fitting that Teresa should be able to lead us in this time. She's been a great source of encouragement to me. And Teresa, we wish you and your husband all the best in your new phase of your life. And it's great if we can just take this time for you to lead us in a short time of devotion to close. So thank you, Teresa.
Okay. Thank you, David. And thank you to everybody that has been on this webinar, and to all the new faces that have joined into IPCA. So we'll just silence our hearts and our minds and be open to the presence of God in our life. Ephesians, we read, "Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you." And so, loving and gracious God, you are indeed the giver of all good gifts. And we thank you today for your blessings on all of the chaplains who have joined this webinar today and the work of IPCA. We ask your blessings in the leadership and our commitment to them for the work ahead, so we may all together keep hope alive for all the prisoners and prison chaplains, the staff and the families who have been affected by crime. And please grant us, loving God, the humility to always seek your will in all that we do and say, in providing comfort and friendship and guidance to those we serve. Father Gregory Boyle shared from Homeboy Industries he's been a part of for so many years, working with ex-gang members. All we're asked to do is to be in the world who God is, a compassionate face, a compassionate voice, hands and feet. We give thanks for all the collaboration between the chaplains and the regions. Our stories are not so different. Our experiences are not so different, but together we can do great things and keep the mission of IPCA alive. And in closing on this Veterans Remembrance Day in Canada, November 11th, let us give thanks to all the military who have served, who continue to serve, and those whose lives have been irrevocably changed by their service. In all of this and in all of you, we give thanks. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Teresa. Our warm thanks to you and regards to your husband.
Thank you. And it is
okay.
David. I want to publicly say that I think IPCA is in excellent hands with David in the leadership. I said that at our regional meeting. My time is up for my role with IPCA on the steering committee, but I will certainly be behind the scenes providing support to our region and do what I can. And to the work of the UN, I was permitted to speak, invited to speak at the UN side event. And that is where so much work happens. And it is something that I in my heart, I just know we cannot give up for IPCA. So thank you all. And I will now be behind the scenes supporting our team in North America. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Teresa, for being with IPCA all these years, and we wish you well in your future endeavors. Okay, so right now we will now thank our panelists and our participants. No, thank you very much, Morris, John Didier, Manuel, Joanne, Sirirat. Thank you also to Joanne, no? And our interpreters, Liz and Naomi. You did a good job in translating this for our participants. So also to the other participants, thank you very much for your time and for being with us here in this webinar. So I would maybe we should meet more often, and we could further exchange more stories in line with our work in the chaplaincy. So again, thank you very much, and God bless us all. So keep safe, and yeah, God bless us all.
Okay, bye-bye. Thanks so much, Jerry. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Take care. Stay safe in your typhoon.
Yeah, thank you. Please pray for us in the Philippines. Shout out to all the Asian representatives. Maybe you can unmute now, all of you, so we can now hear each other. Yeah. Bye-bye. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank
Hi,
you.
everyone.
God bless everyone. And
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care. Suzanne,
Bye-bye.
Morris, Jean
Thank you.
Didier.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Liz. Thanks, Naomi.
Thank you,
Bye-bye, Tim.
David.
Bye-bye, Tim.
Bye.
Congratulations.
All right.
Thank you very much. Okay.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.